Welcome back to Jedi Enclave. I'm Daniel.
I'm Chris.
And we are the Jedi Enclave Presents You Now. This is Podcasting Podcast, a weekly podcast about Star Wars, other nerdy things, and things that we like. And we are just joking. There is hardly anything happening in the Star Wars world right now.
We're in hibernation. We're waiting for Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, this is exactly why someone will get on social media and be like, I thought this was a Star Wars thing. And it's like, no, because if we were, there are entire stretches of time where we wouldn't have anything to talk about. So
either that or we'd have to turn it into like Star Wars Theory or Mike Zero and just farm outrage out of bullshit.
Yeah, which we have some self-respect.
Yeah.
So if you're here normally as a Star Wars fan, like that's cool. There just isn't a bunch to talk about with Star Wars, but you can rest assured that when Skeleton Crew happens, we will be talking the shit out about that. Mm-hmm. And then I think probably when like Agatha All Along is finished, there's a new Mace Windu book that just came out, which I plan to read. And then they've been putting out the Marvel Star Wars issues like crazy, which we're also gonna talk about too, because like some pretty crazy shit
just
happens.
Take a gander at them and recap the high points.
Yeah, we'll bring back our world famous segment, Star Wars Storytime. Mm-hmm. Not tonight.
Nope.
Unfortunately, we have other shit we have to talk about. I'll give everyone just a little morsel of Star Wars, which is, and this is how dry the week is for Star Wars. Mads Mikkelsen is going to be a guest at Star Wars Celebration in Japan.
Neat.
And so people are like, Andor season 2.
Honestly, you're kind of burying the lead here, which is that Star Wars Celebration is in Japan.
Oh, they announced this a long time ago.
Because I maybe it's just me not being cognizant of where Star Wars fans are located, but I always thought of it as a very like American-centric fan base.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why like Star Wars has first of all, not that China and Japan are even the same market really. But Disney has a hard time breaking and Lucasfilm before Disney bought it had a hard time breaking Star Wars into Asian markets, and they've even been a little racist in their attempts. Like famously, when the Force Awakens is coming out, the Japanese movie posters like centered BB-8, like he was the main character, because they're like, oh, Japanese people like robots, I think. Robots and anime
and cute things.
Yeah, so BB-8 and the Japanese are like, okay, those of us who know about Star Wars, fuck you, like we know about Star Wars. And then the Chinese who were like under I mean they're still under obviously communism and in a terrible fucking government, but like back in the 70s when Star Wars came out, 70s and 80s, they weren't allowed to watch Star Wars. Like their parents, like China's parents were like, you're not allowed to watch this, and no one saw it.
Yeah.
And as a result, none of the people who are like, our parents' age or our age have that nostalgia for it.
Which means they don't approach it the same way
Right. So they're like,
the fuck is this?
This is when is the war starting?
And also this is so weird to me. Aren't like the Empire and the First Order supposed to be the good guys because they're the authority figures?
Yeah. Aren't the guys wearing red? Those are the good guys.
Yeah, what's up with that, man?
We're so sorry, by the way. China lives under communism and it sucks for them, and we wish that wasn't the case.
The only thing China related about Star Wars I remember is that Solo bombed terribly there, like even worse than it did here.
Yeah, Solo didn't like bomb here. I'm pretty sure they ended up making like some money on it.
Yeah,
but it didn't do well. Like, right, because like people in China are like,
the fuck is this?
Is he the one in the old one, or is he the one in? I guess he's in the new one, but he's really old now. Is the robot in it?
Anyway, Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, he's going to be at Star Wars Celebration in Japan,
which has immediately lit off a ton of speculation that he might be appearing in Andor season 2,
which would make sense.
Yes, because his character Galen Erso played a small but significant role.
He's the guy that fucked the Empire.
Yeah,
he put a strap on. Or he probably doesn't need one actually. Now I think about it, and was like, bend over and I'm going to shove this in your exhaust port. Mm-hmm. In fact, well, first of all, I'm going to put the exhaust port there to begin with. Yep. And then I'm going to show someone else how to shove something in there. Mm-hmm. Which now that I think about it,
Shove something explosive in there, actually.
Is an overly sexual way to describe how the Rebel Alliance is able to kill the Empire, or at least the Death Star.
Luke Skywalker.
Sorry, the Justice Star.
Yes. Luke Skywalker sent millions of people to the Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Yes. Wow. What a weird direction this conversation is
Anyway,
taken.
the speculation is there because people like Alan Tudyk are going to be there.
Well, which we know, that makes sense, obviously, because he's going to be K2SO and everything.
We know that he's going to be in there, but we hadn't yet heard anything.
That was the last straw when I was, Andor season 1 came out, and I was like, okay, I like Diego Luna. I liked him in Rogue One, but I don't give a fuck where his character came from.
Where's K2SO? Yeah.
And they're like, K2SO isn't going to be in season 1. I was like, fuck you.
I'm out of here.
I'm not watching this.
And then you did watch it.
And I watched it grudgingly, and I was like, this is the best Star Wars I've ever seen in my life. God damn it.
So yeah, that's all the Star Wars news we have. There is literally nothing else going on right now.
Yeah, and we're sorry. But we don't control these things.
Yeah, there's not much we can do.
And I know there are people out there, and I know this because I've seen some of the comments before, and like there are like 5 people in the world out of our tens of viewers who are like convinced that like right now we are being paid by Disney per hour, right?
God, I wish.
And the reason is because we don't foam at the mouth about Kathleen Kennedy, and we don't say woke every 7 seconds like Star Wars Theory or any of those other dumbasses.
And we don't get upset when there are black people in Star Wars.
Yeah,
or women.
And when there are things about Star Wars that we don't like, we say it. Yeah. But we like talking about shit that we like more because it makes me happier than freaking out about shit that I don't like. And as a result, I suppose those qualities are the defining qualities of a Disney show, which is crazy because you and I are both probably ultra socialists who hate Disney.
Probably the most anti-capitalist people we know.
So, man, I would let them pay me. I would totally if they were like,
as long as the checks don't bounce, I'm in.
Yeah, if Disney emailed me, all of Disney was like. We will pay you if you say one nice thing about Kathleen Kennedy every show. It'd be like $20. I'm in. I'll do it for $20.
Yeah, just a case of Coke Zero.
Yeah. So, where do we get off on this?
We're out of Star Wars news. Let's talk. Do you want Penguin or Agatha?
Well, let's talk real quick about. So, HBO is doing a prequel of Dune called Dune Prophecy that had its first trailer.
Second trailer.
Oh, I thought it was the first one ever.
No, the first one was a couple months ago.
We're talking about because I thought it was the first one. Well, it's still a cool trailer.
Yeah. It's neat. It shows maybe the proto Bene Gesserit doing Bene Gesserit.
I think it's just the Bene Gesserit.
Well,
is she the same fucking?
Maybe. Like, I'm not totally clear on the Dune timeline and the mythos there, but like, I know it extends thousands and thousands of years, and there's some like ban against using computers because there was a robot uprising or something. But
that would be kind of neat to see it. That's kind of the storyline of Battlestar Galactica.
A little bit.
They stopped using networked computers because the Cylons.
Because the
Cylons use the internet to kill everyone.
Because the Cylons were the Cylons.
Yeah. Which we're gonna watch. Not a lot of people know the intimate workings of our friendship, but some people know that my partner John and I feel, I guess, a responsibility to make sure you're exposed to really good TV, like really good media.
You're on a mission to civilize.
Yeah.
Me.
And so like when we go to see a good movie in theaters, we like make you come with us, and we've made you watch. We've watched like Severance,
which new season starts in January.
Yeah, which by the way, all the people who are like, yo, why are you not doing Star Wars? Like the weird shit that we're about to do, Severance is on that list. And so we need to get over this, like, oh, why aren't you doing Star Wars thing? Because that's not Star Wars, and we will be talking about it.
Because we contain multitudes, and not all of that has to be Star Wars.
What are the other things I made you watch?
Let's see, we just finished Devs.
Right. Which is good.
Which is a fucking mind screw if you've never seen it.
Yep. And then before that, the Newsroom.
Newsroom, yeah.
Which is an old show not a lot of people may even be aware of. But we at some point will watch, because I think I made you watch like the mini series at the beginning.
You maybe
of the
watch
show.
that, and then like you jumped around and showed me a couple episodes here and there.
Yeah, we might actually like sit down and watch the whole thing because it is really good. And I'm pretty
There's
sure
a lot of that though.
not really.
Isn't it like 4 or 5 seasons?
I think it's 4 seasons, which for a show of the time, I mean, like keep in mind that like a lot of shows like that went on for like 6 or 7 seasons. And it's like everyone knows Sci-Fi, like the channel, for producing
Sharknado.
Yeah. And so when you're like, Battlestar Galactica reboot on Sci-Fi, and it's like, no, this show is actually really good because the guy that produced it, Ronald Moore, is the same guy that worked on TNG and like some other Star Trek shit. So like the dude knew what he was doing. And
somehow convinced Sci-Fi to give him a budget to actually do the things he wanted to do.
Yeah. And the cast is really good. Fucking Edward James Olmos playing Commander Adama, who steals every scene he's in. And then, so the show we're making you watch right now is The Fall of the House of Usher, because it's like becoming spooky season, and it's, you know, it's one of those like spooky shows. And there's a character in that played by the same actor who plays it begins as the Secretary of Education, Laura Roslin. And she is okay. So we're gonna take just a minute to do this because we're only doing Agatha and Penguin.
And
today.
before you get all uppity, Fall of the House of Usher has Mark Hamill in it, so it's related to Star Wars.
And he's really
he's
good.
So good.
Okay, so like Secretary of Education, practically last in the line of succession, right? Is out in space to do this rechristening of the Battlestar Galactica, a warship, as a museum.
Because somebody has to be out there to do it.
And she's a politician, and so she's going to go and give the speech. While she is out, the Cylons attack Earth and kill everyone. The president and the rest of the fucking cabinet.
All the succession.
And so they call her up and they're like, we think you're the president now. And she's like, oh.
Wait, really?
And then Edward James Olmos, who was the commander of the ship, was like, no, we're a military operation now. We're in a war now. And she's like, and there's this whole like actually really compelling struggle between the two of them and about like the role of military and government and vice versa.
And eventually they start fucking?
Yeah. But you know what? It happens. And by the end of it, you're like, oh my God, they're so adorable. They're so adorable together. And then, oh my God, fucking Katie Sackhoff, the actor that is like one of the main characters in that show. She's also so good. That show is banging. We're going to watch that after Fall of House of Usher. And even though we've done buzz recaps of all of Game of Thrones, we probably will watch all of that too. Like by the time that we get through everything and we're done with the buzz recaps,
it's going to be like 2027.
Well, no, we only have one more buzz recap.
Well, I was saying by the time you make me watch
Battlestar, you mean? Yeah,
and then
which
Game
is fine
of Thrones.
because that's the Game of Thrones thing. Like that's after we're done with Battlestar, that will probably have given me enough time to want to watch Game of Thrones again. Oh, okay. So that's probably one, and that will take forever.
That'll take us till 2027.
Right. All right, we should probably start talking about some other shit.
All right. Hello there.
D Breen 66 says hello there, General Kenobi.
You are a bold.
I know that's what you wanted me to say. Everyone says hello there. I'm like, hey, what's up? And they're like, fuck you.
You're not a real fan.
Yeah. And then Cassandra Carlisle says, hello, random person. Hello, random person.
Which one of us are you talking to?
People. Hello, random people.
Hi.
Yeah.
Anyway, what are we doing?
We're internet famous. We have tens of viewers. Yeah. That's great.
Dozens of fans.
You know what I'm really dying to talk about today?
Agatha?
Yes. And you know what? It's not necessarily because I haven't been enjoying Penguin, which we are going to talk about because I have, and it's been really great.
It's been great, yeah.
That show is way better than it has any like right being.
I have thoughts about that, but we'll get to them in a minute.
But Agatha All Along
confirmed the one thing that you wanted confirmed.
I know.
Like, actually, ironclad in stone can't be denied.
Are you talking about the other thing that I also correctly predicted?
Maybe.
About why a certain character is on the Witch's Road?
Possibly?
Like his actual the thing he's trying to get.
Oh, yeah.
Which
but that was another thing. But yes.
So like now I'm balls deep in this. It's like this is I love the fucking show. Mm-hmm. Also, it stands to like it should be said again that this show was made for me and my people the gays, right? And everything about it has been great so far. And there's been music and Patti LuPone with a fucking maraca and gay Joe Locke from fucking Heartstopper. So like everything about this show has been great. In addition to that, and I'm sure you're probably screeching about how woke it is at this point, to which I say fuck off because I really don't care. Has been an interesting story with good visuals. There have been like a couple of things along the way, like the broomstick ride. Oh, looked not so great.
But by and large, they've been doing practical effects, and it's worked really well.
It's been cool, and the cast has been awesome. And I guess that's my spoiler review, free review so far. So we are going to spoil this. So beware. If you've not seen it, please, like, if you want to go see it without hearing us talk about it, go do that. We have to start earlier than this show now, though.
Yep.
And if you
this is the requisite flashback episode where we get backstory
and before we even get into it, because they don't hold your hand about what the show kind of assumes that you've seen WandaVision, right?
100%.
Which if you haven't,
I mean, if you're watching Agatha All Along, you have seen one.
Yeah, you've at least stopped in between episodes and went like, what the fuck happens?
You know who this character is. You know why you're here. So
a couple of things happen in WandaVision that are narratively very important to this episode. The first thing is that instead of getting therapy,
like a normal, well-adjusted human being would do,
Wanda Maximoff instead
enslaves an entire town and makes them act out her bizarro sitcom romance with her dead husband, and conjures her dead husband. And she's like, "Well, I'm at it. Fuck it. I'm going to have 2 kids too." And everyone's like, "Did you want 2 kids?" She's like, "Well, I do now. I got them now."
And so we meet Tommy and Billy Maximoff.
Yep.
And shenanigans happen. And partway through the series, and this is a more minor thing that ends up popping up in this. Agatha, as a part of her manipulation of Wanda in this hex, in this like spelled city, the old town, recasts her brother Pietro with the actor that played the same character in the X-Men continuity, which
is just inspired casting.
Also, and I think they were trolling us a little bit because what we thought was they brought
X-Men into the MCU.
Yeah, and because they had Peter, or what's his name, Peters, who was Tommy in the X-Men, but Pietro in the X-Men. But then the Pietro we know dies in Age of Ultron.
Yep.
And so we're like, oh my gosh, many worlds. And
what's
like,
going on?
She pulled him from the multiverse, or fucking Charles Xavier is going to be in the next episode, I bet. And then they're like, no, it was a random dude that was in witness protection. And his last name was Boner.
Like Ralph Boner.
What the fuck did you just say? And they're like, just fucking go with it. WandaVision is weird. Everything is weird.
Yeah.
And that was the end of it, right? So thus starts the episode called Familiar by Thy Side. And we immediately start with a teenager.
The
teen played by Joe Locke, whose name is William Kaplan. Who is
gearing up for his bar mitzvah?
Yeah, he's.
Didn't know he was Jewish, but
how old are you when you have to do that?
I don't know.
He's probably like
14, 15, somewhere around there.
Right.
We are not Jewish, so if you are and you know the answer to this question, please put it in the comments.
So he is being a teen, and he's gonna go. I guess you become a man when you do the bar mitzvah.
Yes.
You read from the Torah. And you have the little pointer thing, and you speak in Hebrew.
And then you have a party.
Which is, by the way, almost the extent of what I know about the Jewish tradition. And I'm very sorry. And it's not because of any inherent anti-Semitism or anything. It's because I'm an atheist and I don't give a fuck, right? But anyway, that's what he does.
Yes.
He reads from the thing. And they have a party.
Yep.
And I thought it was really, they do the thing where like they cue that one song they play at every bar mitzvah and they raise him up on the fucking chair and everything.
But we meet his parents.
Yeah.
His completely normal, mundane parents who are definitely not Wanda and Vision.
Or from the comics, Wanda Mephisto, I guess, would be their parents from the comics.
Yeah.
And they seem real nice.
Mm-hmm.
And they seem like real cool people.
Like, oh, we love you so much. But he's like, oh, it's so gross.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's a teenager. Right, yeah. And at his party, they have, in her own little yurt, a fortune teller.
A palm reader.
Yeah, who is
of course Patti LuPone.
Who's been in previous episodes.
So William goes on in there and says, hey, fucking take a look at my hand.
Yeah.
She's like,
I like how, by the way, he was like, before you tell me anything, I would very much not, like, I don't need to know everything.
Yeah, like no major spoilers, but like if you want to tell me if like cool stuff is going to happen, that's cool.
Like if I get laid,
yeah,
I would like to know that.
Yeah.
But if I specifically die in a car accident, don't tell me that.
Maybe don't.
And she's like, that's oddly specific, but okay.
But let me look at your hand. Oh,
and she's like, oh, your line, your dying in a car crash line is broken.
Yeah, your lifeline is cut in half.
Yeah.
That could mean that you die in a car crash.
Well, I like how
but it could also just mean, a major life change.
I like how she reacts to it before she can compose herself, and he senses like something's wrong. He's like, oh, that's bad, right? She's like,
no, it's fine.
Not necessarily.
It's fine. Yeah.
It could mean lots of things. You could be gassy or, it's who the fuck knows? None of this shit's real, kid. Don't worry about it. And he's like, okay. And he fucks off.
Yeah.
And he leaves his jacket on accident.
And Patti LuPone immediately grabs a little.
What is it? Because in every episode, Patti LuPone's character has like said something weird.
Oh, I forget what it was exactly.
She says something where she goes off and says
has
something.
An outburst, and he's like, "Excuse me?"
Right.
She's like, "No, don't worry about that."
Which, by the way, so we mentioned this last week, but someone took all the little snippets that she said, and then if you order them backwards, they read April, don't save Agatha, or not April, Alice. I thought I said April as in like April Ludgate from Parks and Rec, which also didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So he leaves the little tent, and she pulls out like a little
clay tablet thing, and does a little scribble on
some
it.
calligraphy, which matches the symbol that we know is over his
sigilled over his mouth when he tries to identify himself. And
which immediately solves the mystery of who put the,
we know who that
who put the sigil on. So if you're watching this, like whenever Billy tries to either say his name or divulge any information about like where he's from, like anything specific, I guess any witch who hears it can't hear him, right? And his mouth, because there are probably some witches that are like really good at lip reading, and so. And so we figure out that Patti LuPone's the one that put that sigil on him.
Also, a very nice bit of acting at Patti LuPone here, because as soon as she finishes that sigil, she like kind of straightens up and gets this kind of confused look on her face.
Because she immediately forgets.
Yeah,
like who he is.
She drops it in the jacket, and she's like, "Yeah, it's some kid came in my tent. You should probably give this back to him."
What does it look like? I have no idea. I have no idea what it looks like. One of these fucking kids around here. Which, by the way, now that I'm thinking about it, seems like a much more localized version of the spell that Doctor Strange puts on the whole world to make them forget who Peter Parker is. Yeah. It's just like, I guess, a much more smaller scale thing.
Well, because she's not the Sorcerer Supreme.
Right. She should be. Patti LuPone should be the Sorcerer Supreme. So he returns to the party. And his dad gets the microphone.
Yeah, so some cops come in and talk to his dad, and his dad gets on the microphone and says, "Hey, don't freak out.
The weird hex that's been happening all week.
Yeah, that giant red dome thing
over in Westview where they do weird things.
Don't panic, but it's doing some freaky shit, and y'all should probably go home.
It seems to be collapsing and or expanding. We can't tell.
Yeah,
so we're gonna go.
Get the fuck out.
Everyone get out. Go party somewhere else.
Proceed to the exits in a calm and orderly fashion."
And
everyone starts screaming and running for the doors. So
they get in their car and they're driving home.
On the radio, they can only hear the fucking Wanda sitcoms.
Right. Yeah. And so they're like, what the fuck is this? Yeah.
They turn it off.
Billy turns around and looks.
William.
And sorry.
Important distinction there.
Yeah.
Which makes sense when we get there.
Notices that the hex is doing weird shit in the background. And then that also distracts his parents. And then because they're distracted drivers, and for some reason there's a truck in their lane.
Yeah.
There's this terrible car accident.
Yep. The mom is driving, swerves, and they hit a tree, and Billy smacks his head, or William smacks his head
And dies.
Yes.
Fucking, he's not breathing.
Bleeds
he's
out
bleeding.
on the spot.
And after a couple of seconds, and this is filmed really well, where the camera's kind of panning in on his face.
And there's sound effects of his heartbeat slowing.
Yeah. Takes a sharp inhale, and the first thing out of his mouth, Tommy. And you're like, oh my God, it's fucking Billy.
Yeah.
Now, this begs a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
For example, so Billy Maximoff in the Hex was like 12, probably 11 or 12.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Probably not a teenager yet.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's in a teenager's body.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that we know that the boys could just age themselves up whenever they wanted to, which was a weird ability that Wanda decided to just give them.
Sure.
Because they have the whole bit where when the dog died, which, spoilers, it was Agatha.
It was Agatha all along.
Yeah. He like, Wanda's like, don't you age yourselves up? Like, we need to like deal with this. Like, you need to deal with the emotional ramifications of this. So does he just kick himself up a couple of years?
Well,
or is he a 12-year-old trapped in a 14 or 15-year-old's body? And I know that, so the difference seems negligible, except for during those particular years, 1 year is a massive time of development, right? You're talking about going from an innocent kid to never stopping thinking about sex in 1 year, right? And developmentally after that, everything happens in your brain until you're 18, pretty much. So like, was he like, oh, I guess I'm 14, probably 14 now?
This is not at all related to the plot. And these are just the things that we think about.
It is not relevant at all, but it's like, this is one of those things where like, I would like some clarification on the mechanics of this, because now I'm a little confused.
Well, they have a small talk about this at the very end of the episode, but we should just keep going.
So the second he says Tommy, by the way, which my partner John and I have been talking about this show nonstop, and we've been watching episodes twice. Like right before the new episode comes out, we'll watch the one we've already seen. And this has been a thing we've been talking about since the beginning, where I was like, okay, so he's obviously Billy Kaplan, like Billy Maximoff, and like I bet he's on the witch's road trying to find Tommy, because if that happened to me and I guess we didn't know the specifics of how it happened, but my first question would be like, where the fuck is my twin brother? Right. And so as soon as he said Tommy, John was like, and I was like, I fucking knew it. So things are real. Okay, so first of all, he doesn't remember anything from before this happened.
So the cop who his parents had flagged down turns out to be Alice.
Yes.
So fun little connection there. But yes, he has amnesia. He's in the hospital because he was in a car crash. He does not remember anything from before this car crash. He
including the stuff that Billy should know.
Yes.
Like the hex and his mom, and he I think he understands that Tommy's important, but doesn't understand why the feeling's so strong and everything. So everything is very like confusing to him.
Yeah.
On top of this, he keeps his ability to read people's minds. And this is a huge problem. So they let him out of the hospital. He has like retrograde amnesia or whatever. And he's like trying to figure everything out.
Like his new parents bring him home.
And
they're like thinking, Jesus Christ, I just want this kid to be normal again.
Yeah.
When is he going to get his memories back? When what the fuck is wrong with him?
All of these
and he's like, can you just stop thinking?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, just stop.
Yeah. And so the thing is like,
and they're like, no, we can't stop thinking. And also it's creepy that you know that we're thinking about you.
If this were Billy, who had held on to all of his memories, this wouldn't be a huge deal for him, because he was just used to it in WandaVision. And it's one of the reasons he liked Agatha so much, was because he, like, when he listened to her brain was just like empty. And it like, he's like, you're not so fucking noisy. You're, you know, I kind of like that about you. Which, by the way, did you know that there's an entire deleted sequence in that show of Tommy and Billy fighting the bunny?
No.
Mr. Scratch or Senior Scratch or whatever, who turns into like a demon and chases them around and shit. They cut that from the show.
Mr. Scratch is an interesting name given Agatha's
right. Senior Scratch. Yes. Yeah. The whole thing is yeah. So yeah, he's hearing his parents' thoughts.
And he's like, look, maybe things are a little tense right now. Can I just like go up to my room and chill for a little bit and
not talk to you for a while?
And they're like, you're a teenager, sure.
Yeah. And so
a little sequence in there where he's like standing in frsome of the mirror and saying, "I'm William Kaplan."
Yeah.
Like tries to
like he's trying to like get everything down. Some time passes, and he's
a couple of years, I think.
Yes. Yeah, probably. Yeah. And well, yeah, because we know that he's 16 when he starts talking to Agatha.
Yeah.
So it was a couple of years. And he's got a boy that he likes.
A boyfriend.
Yeah. And there's this really touching moment where they're like every kid that age who are like, they're sitting out in the car before they have to get home for curfew. And like, you know, they're going to make out because that's what you do when you're that age. And he can hear this boy that he likes. He can hear his thoughts about, he's like, oh my gosh, I fucking love this kid. I'm going to say I love you. And he's like, oh, we need to talk a second. And I thought for a minute he was going to be like, we're breaking up. But that's not what he says.
No, Billy is way too sweet for that.
Well, I figure that he would be direct enough where he, like, if he didn't love him back, that he would just be like, oh no, we're not doing this anymore.
But he had his boyfriend in his phone in like episode 2 or whatever.
Yeah, I understand. He also didn't answer it.
Okay.
By the way.
Yeah.
But anyway, it turns out that he just wanted to steal his boyfriend's thunder and be like, you know what? I love you too. And the guy's like, I didn't say that I loved you. So why would you phrase it like that? And he's like, don't worry about it. I think that his boyfriend knows. I think he's probably told him a little bit about some of the weird shit, but not all of it, because like, he's like, okay, it's about time we come clean about this. I've got all this weird shit happening. Magic is real. I can read minds. And you know what? Like his general response was, oh, that's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
And which we're like, I would be, okay, so we're going to need to prove that.
Yeah.
And like, we're going to need to go through this.
Like, we're going to have to do some scientifically rigorous testing here.
Boyfriend takes it in stride. He's like, fuck it. Magic's real. You can read minds. Now the thing makes sense. Now what? And he's like, I've been doing all this fucking research and I've been he's got his whole fucking like board with, you know,
his Pepe Sylvia board.
Yeah. And
his boyfriend's like, of course you do. Yeah. You're you.
I like the detail about his boyfriend takes off his jacket and then
he's like, whoa, I'm gonna need you to put those guns away.
Yeah,
sir.
we can't. We are here to work, sir. We are not here to make out. And he has put together an impressive amount of information about what happened in the Hex. Yeah. And he's kind of combed through the internet and like put some pieces together. He finds out Agatha's name. And he finds this old timey picture of her from like, I don't know, the 1890s
I think
or something.
That's after, because he tells his boyfriend, hey,
all right, he doesn't know about Agatha until
I talked to this guy on Reddit and he wants to meet up and tell me something.
Let's do the Reddit thing real quick.
Okay. His boyfriend's like, this is such a terrible idea, dude.
Which meeting a guy on Reddit
never a good idea.
Is about as stupid as meeting a guy on Craigslist.
Because you know that the person on Reddit is not a sane individual, or else they wouldn't be on Reddit.
As a man on Reddit, I can tell you that is true, right? Like I wouldn't meet up with me on Reddit. And so
he goes. They drive down to the parking garage.
What's his Reddit handle? It's like Mr. Bonerific or something.
Something like that, yeah.
And at first, when you hear it, you're like, so that's a Reddit handle. That's what they all look like.
No, he's meeting Ralph fucking Boner.
Yeah, and I remember. So last week, the mid-season trailer for this show came out, and there's a shot that comes from this episode, and I swear to God, you'll go and watch New Rock Stars with Eric Voss. and it shows that back shot with his hat on, and he's like, that's Mephisto. because we know, like, now that we've heard his name in universe, he exists.
Yes.
And Sacha Baron Cohen is cast in this show.
We haven't seen him yet.
And it's Sacha Baron Cohen. And who better to play fucking Mephisto? Like some zany devil, Satan guy.
Aubrey Plaza.
I would love that. And
I don't think it's happening, but I would love it too.
Yes, I would prefer that over Sacha Baron Cohen. But so Ralph Boner has had a hard time.
Yeah, he this man needs therapy.
Yes. By the way, turns out that all of the multiverse bullshit about him being Pietro from the X-Men, none of that was true.
Nope.
He was the guy. So at the very beginning of WandaVision, Agent, what's his name from the FBI, is like, oh, there was a guy here that was from Witness Protection that we lost track of, and we came to check it out, and now this, right? Yeah. He was the guy in Witness Protection.
Yeah.
And his encounter with Agatha has left him a little fucking crazy.
So at first he tells Billy just some basic shit that happened in there, and then he starts thinking, don't ask about Agatha, don't ask about Agatha, don't ask about Agatha, don't ask about Agatha. And Billy's like, hey, so what about Agatha? He's like, God damn it.
Yeah. Which, by the way, that to me felt a little manipulative.
A little bit.
It just felt like oh, ask me about Agatha. So I wonder maybe I don't know if he knows.
I don't think it's that deep.
He seems pretty clueless about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. He looks rough, by the way. He's got longer hair. He's got weird, scraggly facial hair.
He has not had a good time.
Yeah.
So Agatha Harkness is this really old witch. She forced me to be her husband, which was really
and
creepy.
We did husband-wife things.
Yes. We know each other carnally.
I've sinned.
But yeah, she was the one doing all that bad shit.
Yeah, and, she made me kidnap Monica's daughter, Rambo. Little girl Rambo. I can't remember her fucking name. It was Monica and something else. Maria Rambo. Or was Monica the kid?
I think Maria's the mom.
Okay. So Monica, yeah.
Anyway.
Which was a post-credit scene from WandaVision.
And like he mentions, okay, so Wanda's dead. Vision is dismantled by S.H.I.E.L.D. Billy and Tommy, no one knows where the fuck they are. So also, I will take cash, or do you want to show up to my one-man improv show?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a discount on the tickets to because of course he has a one-man show, right? And that's another gag from WandaVision. Is he's an aspiring actor or whatever. He's got like a headshot and shit.
So Billy gets home and fucking puts on the Witch's Road record, which Alice's mom.
This moment in the show is so fucking cool because it's cool to hear that version because we heard them perform it live in 2 episodes ago, and that version of the song slaps. Like it's really cool. And hearing it just on the record was really neat. So
Billy is like scribbling his notes, trying to figure everything out.
And then like all the connections just kind of like
holy
come
shit
together.
I'm Billy Maximoff.
Right. And then he realizes,
wait, Tommy is still missing.
Right. And then he which is that's a name that he knows. Yeah. He doesn't understand why. Right. Yeah. And then he realizes, oh my God, Tommy's my brother.
So then he goes on the internet.
And this moment, by the way, is just like it's like in shows. It's one of my favorite moments in a lot of like TV shows or movies, where that moment where everything just kind of comes together, and then the narrative just for 3 or 4 seconds freezes, and it allows you to catch up with it. It take a second, catch up, and then everything after that just like kind of explodes, right?
So he immediately goes back on Reddit and starts searching for Agatha Harkness, and he finds this photo, and it leads him down a rabbit hole.
Finds a YouTube video of her singing Agatha All Along.
He's like, wait a minute, she was in
that
there.
Didn't really happen,
like,
by the way.
Is she still there? Like, well, let me go consult my spell book. Oh, hey, there's this spell that can make someone, remember things.
Right.
Let's fucking go find out about that witch's road where we can get whatever we want.
Yes. So he dresses up the way we see him in the first episode
in his fucking ninja
Agatha,
outfit and breaks into her house.
Which is just an emo fucking, emo outfit with a little bandana. Yeah. This is fucking hilarious. So we see a lot of what happens in the first episode from Billy's perspective, right?
Yep.
So like when he walks past the window, he sees Agatha and April Ludgate talking. And like she tells the same joke about the TikTok makeup person or whatever the fuck. And he sneaks in.
Oh, speaking of, we see earlier in the episode, we see that Billy has a YouTube makeup tutorial from the potions lady.
Oh, right. Yeah. And they talk about how unnaturally like good her skin is and shit. Yeah. So he like sneaks in because I think he needs
he needs an object of personal significance to cast this spell.
Yeah, so he goes rifling through her shit, right?
And he finds a little mother maiden crone medallion. He's like,
or whatever.
Hey, this seems significant. Let me just tuck it in my pocket. And I knocked off a lamp.
Yeah. And so Katie Hahn runs up there.
It's like, what the fuck are you doing in my house? Because she's still in detective persona.
Okay. So she captures. So there's a whole foot chase.
Yep.
Turns out that Sharon doesn't hit him with a car. Like Agatha sees it in the first episode. She just opens the door and kind of like bumps into him.
He's like, oh.
Yeah. And it wasn't that big of a deal. But in Agatha, it's a cinematic foot chase through the town and shit. And she brings him back. And I swear to God, guys.
Brings him back to her house.
Yes.
Sits him down in a chair.
She's got a garden hose nozzle as her sidearm.
Yeah.
And
fucking slaps down some duct tape and some rope and sits down on her other chair, legs spread wide, like, all right, you hooligan.
Yeah, does the whole interrogation from Billy's perspective, which is just in her living room.
Yeah.
Right?
He's just like,
when she's wearing a literal garden hose attachment as a gun and just out of her mind, batshit insane.
He's like, wow, you are really committing to this bit.
Yeah. And he mentions about how like she was like really pigeonholing him into the stereotype of the younger suspect who is guilty of a lesser crime but not the one that she's investigating and shit.
He's very genre savvy.
Yes. And also a lot of so it turns out that Agatha's point of view from the first episode is very unreliable. Yes. Obviously, because she's tripping balls, right? And so we hear a lot of the actual dialogue that happened, which is way different than it actually happens. And like for example, he doesn't the insult that he says in the first episode about him trying to find the respect of her peers and he doesn't actually say that.
No,
that's just something that she makes up in her mind as a genre friendly
as a provocation so that she can do a little rough.
Which by the way, in the first episode she kicks his ass all the way over. But in this episode she barely taps him. And then
so finally he's like, okay, this is really weird. I'm just going to cast this spell now. He pulls out his little spell book and starts
muttering Latin.
He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And finally she's like, whoa.
Yeah, she's looking at the painting and shit. The whole April Ludgate thing happens.
Yes, like she ties up Joe Locke, throws him in the closet. He's like, no, I don't want to be in the closet again.
Right, that was a good little joke. Yeah. And then that whole thing gets resolved, and then she lets him out. And
then we see he says his name. Like we're sort of fast forwarding through the rest of the series at this point.
Yeah.
So he says his name, and she's like, "What the?" Well,
no. Well, hold on a second, because this is an important distinction for the character. I feel like obviously the difference in the names is important, but for this character, she asks him who he is, and he says, "I'm William Kaplan." And that's enough for the sigil to work.
Yeah.
And we know that it works on her side because we've seen that side of the conversation. And then her confusion, which Billy doesn't understand, just thinks she's being weird because she's kind of kooky, asks again, and then he says, "I'm Billy Maximoff." And she still doesn't know what the fuck he says.
Still kicks
and he's like, for him, it's he's claiming this really important part of his identity, right? And we go through. Well, I don't think they show all the rest of the show.
They just kind of flash through various scenes.
Yeah, like some of the trials and shit.
So then,
good.
Agatha starts clawing her way up through the mud because she's not quite dead yet. She gets up and wipes the mud off her face. Yeah.
I love how she has this air about her, like, not again. It's like,
this fucking bullshit.
Yeah. It's like, how many times have you been in this situation before?
Meanwhile, Billy is just like off on his own with his, little emo hood up. He's like looking at the sigil and contemplating it. And finally he just cracks it.
Yep. It crushes it and it's like,
lets the pieces fall.
Fuck off, sigil.
And she's like, well.
Yeah. She talks different.
Yeah.
Different than we're used to hearing her.
I think this is like Agatha at her most true to herself self.
Like real witchy sounding and because
I think she fucking leans into that shit hard.
Yeah, because she's real like guttural, and like her voice is like lower and rough and everything.
I think like before she's always
trying to put forward a good foot, and
she's always performing to her audience. Right, I think
she's manipulating,
and at this point she just doesn't feel the need to be nice. Because like she just saw Billy fucking throw her off the road and then throw his puppets off the road and quite possibly kill them.
So Agatha says that he like killed them because she can hear him say what his name is now. Yeah. Which means the sigil is broken. But we're not sure if that's because he broke the sigil or because like Patti LuPone is dead, which I can't imagine I can't imagine they killed those two characters.
Earlier, they said that a sigil, something along the lines of a sigil breaks when it's no longer needed.
Oh, okay.
And like all their magic rules and proclamations have proven true so far. So I'm leaning towards he broke the thing and that's what broke the sigil, but
maybe it was like a completion of his acceptance of who he was or whatever. Yeah. And like I said, Agatha hints at the fact that he murdered Patti LuPone and the other one,
Potions Lady.
Yeah, Snape.
Yeah,
I'm start calling her Snape. That makes perfect sense.
Sure.
And first of all, I can't imagine I'll have Billy do that because that's some bad guy shit, right? Like I get like maybe they want to make him maybe more of a darker hero, and that's fine. But you can't have him kill two people in cold blood. That just like you can't do that. But also, if they killed Patti LuPone off screen, I'm gonna be pretty pissed because
she's Patti fucking LuPone.
But also, like, there's shit that we still need to learn about those characters.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling the next episode they're gonna be coming out of the mud too, right? But there's they have this conversation where Agatha is like, okay, so let's take stock of all of this now. Why the fuck?
Like, you clearly have a fair amount of power if you're able to get in their brains and do that. So why are you actually
here? Because
maybe you want to see your mom again.
Yes.
Or your dad. Or, wait. Maybe your dog. Or, probably not your twin brother.
Yeah. The deduction that she goes through is like, you could be searching for your mother, but that doesn't make sense because in the end, you were just a disposable part of her imagination that she just lets go. And like the whole reason she did this was to fuck Vision anyway. And you guys were just there. And she can't be going after Vision because he's disassembled somewhere. They probably used him. Well, we know now that he's White Vision. He's somewhere he fucked off in WandaVision. We don't know where the fuck he is. And so she lands on on him looking for his twin brother. And like this makes sense for Agatha to get there quickly because there's that episode toward the end of the season of WandaVision where she spends like some time with both of them together and then abducts them and threatens to kill them. And you can tell that like Billy's reaction is like, yeah, because I'm gonna be real honest, I don't give a fuck about power. I've got plenty of that already.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm here. And it's a great reveal, and it's also like, I appreciate that he's not there to find his mom, because if they're going with how Wanda ends up in like Doctor Strange 3,
mm-hmm.
she's kind of a piece of shit anyway.
Yeah.
So like, she's kind of a bad guy now. And when you watch the end of WandaVision, the last thing that Billy and Tommy are looking at when they just fucking dematerialize are one another. And imagine being a kid in that situation, seeing all this shit happen. Your mom like puts you to bed like you're on the fucking Titanic, right? Like that fucking scene where the woman puts her kids to bed and shit, and everything around you is just dematerializing and shit. I'm not sure I would be super crazy about her either.
Yeah.
Because she literally just is like, you guys are gonna die now. I'm so sorry I brought you into the world. Goodbye. I've learned my lesson. And then like in the next movie, she's like, oh, I didn't learn my lesson. I'm killing everyone now.
So 2 thoughts here. Number one of the lines Agatha uses on Billy is, so what if you were dying inside the hex and then used your power to jump into a new body outside the hex?
Right. That reminded me of Doctor Strange, because there was that whole bit about how they're not allowed to get into dead bodies.
Mm-hmm.
But something very specific happened when Doctor Strange did it, which is like demons started chasing him, and he made a cloak out of them, and it was fucking awesome, right? But like, that didn't happen to Billy.
No.
And it makes me wonder.
It's like, so what if you broke the rules a bit? That just makes you a witch.
Or bent them, or found a loophole, I guess.
Yeah, or something.
It would make sense to me that maybe a little bit of William Kaplan is still there.
Yeah.
That he saves.
What I'm thinking happened was, at the instant that Billy Maximoff was dematerializing inside the hex, his consciousness just sort of slurped out, and like that was when William Kaplan was dying. So he just kind of went over here.
I think if I had to guess, there's probably a little bit of overlap, where like he was mostly dead and on the way out, and that's kind of like when things happened. Yeah. And also probably instinctual. I can't imagine that the 12-year-old Billy Maximoff is floating around in the ether and like, oh, look, a dead body. I'm going to go get in that fucking dead body.
He's probably just like, I don't really want to die. Ooh, dead body.
Yeah. I would imagine it's one of those things where it was an instinct where, where he just kind of jumped in. So, burning question.
Yes.
Where the fuck is Tommy?
Good question.
He doesn't have the psychic abilities.
No, he just runs fast.
Yeah, he doesn't have the psychic abilities that Billy has. Is he the same age? Is he still played by Jack Klein, the kid that played him in WandaVision? Yeah. Because I looked into this after watching the episode, and Jack Klein is quite a bit older. Because WandaVision was a COVID show, I think.
It was a long time ago.
And has also been massively beefing up lately, like working out. Okay. And that's usually an indication that they're gearing up for MCU shit, because they demand that shit of their actors. Kind of a shitty thing to do to Julian Hilliard, who played Billy in like if they were to use Jet and then not that other actor who is fantastic. He was absolutely great as Billy. So I'm not sure, or I don't know what they're going to do with that. Or is he going to find out that when the hex collapsed, he died? He's just dead.
Maybe.
Because that would be devastating as well.
Other burning question. Where's Rio in all of this?
Well, I think is
she just hanging out with the dead bodies and doing her witchy
I think
things?
She's like eating Alice or something.
Yeah.
Like everyone leaves and she like pulls out the fork and the knife and like puts the thing on. And she's like, ooh, dead body.
So at the end, Agatha's like, all right, we're heading down the road to the next fucking trial. Last one there's a good person. And Billy's like, I'm not as good as you think.
Yeah. Which in the comics, Billy Kaplan's a hero and it is one of the Young Avengers.
Yeah.
So I don't think that they're going to make him like a villain, which is why I think Patty LuPone and Snape are still alive, right?
Could be, yeah.
So
yeah,
they're going to run into them. So, like they're all going to get to the next thing together, and it's going to be really awkward. Probably.
Well, we've probably still got Patty LuPone and Rio's trials left to go, right?
Well, we haven't had Snape's.
Yeah, we have. It was the very first one.
That wasn't hers though. Everyone had those hallucinations. Everyone had their own little hallucination.
Well, she was the one who had to make the potion to save them, right?
Oh wait, you're right though, because it happened in the
it's the fucking
in the Waspy house. Yeah. You're probably right. So we could do without her.
So cross her off the list. Alice is done. Agatha, we think that was Agatha's trial where she confronted the ghost of her mother, and Alice died. Yeah,
I've seen some people wonder if it was actually hers and not like Rio's or something. Maybe. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell. But yeah. Next episode is on Wednesday. Can't fucking wait. I love this show so much. It's nice to have a show where I'm like really, because the last show I've been like really looking forward to was House of the Dragon, and so I'm like finally I've got a show as well that I'm like kind of excited about, which also means inevitably that when it ends I'll be really depressed because that's how that goes.
Well, by the time it ends, it'll be like a week or two for Skeleton Crew. So
is it really that soon?
I think so. Well. Maybe more like 3 or 4 weeks.
Maybe a month.
This show ends, I think, the week after Halloween, and then Skeleton Crew's December. So yeah, you got most of November to mope, I suppose.
I'll just watch it again, and then I'll watch WandaVision. Yeah. It'll be a lot of fun. All right, the Penguin.
It's weird that we had two weeks
flashback.
Two flashback episodes in a single week.
Yeah, maybe this is something to be said about how they organize the storytelling structure in shows, and how like in this part of the season is a good time to have some introspection and character development. The spoilers, we're not going to do spoiler free on this because we've been talking for quite a while actually. This is the how did Sophia get fucking crazy episode. And it turns out that she was not crazy to begin with.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why we ever doubted her. Well, because she's crazy by the time we get her. But yeah.
So like are we just going out of order, or are we just...
No, we'll just go through it a little bit. Okay. So Sophia is...
So we start with the present day, where Penguin and Sophia are on their knees in the parking lot, and Penguin's telling
he's trying to wiggle his way out of that. He's trying to wiggle his way out,
and Sophia's like, wait a minute, you're betraying me.
Yeah, it starts to dawn on her, and then the Maroney woman like lets slip that, oh, he killed your brother Alberto, and she's like, you motherfucker.
And then Vic comes in, and everything goes to hell.
Right.
So Sophia
cuts that dude in half with a car, by the way. I'm pretty sure that guy's dead.
The guy's paralyzed at the very least.
Yeah.
So like Sophia's got a head wound. She like gets on her phone and calls
Dr. Rush.
Yep. Calls her therapist and is like,
I need help. She says, I need help. It was Oz.
Yep.
And he's like, who the fuck is Oz?
And then we have a flashback.
Yep. And it's her entire time. Well, so first of all, like, because she's from a wealthy family.
So this is like 10 years ago.
Yeah. She's at a luncheon for a foundation that she and her father put together because of her mother, who we find out apparently died of suicide when she was like 9 years old.
Untreated mental illness and committed suicide.
And hung herself.
Yes.
May not seem like an important detail now, but ends up being.
Yeah. So on her way out, Sophia is accosted by this woman who is this foundation is great and all, but we can really be doing more.
She's a reporter.
Here's my card.
Yeah.
Sophia's like, I don't talk to media. Get the fuck away from me.
This is Summer Gleason, by the way, who is a character that they created in Batman the Animated Series.
Oh.
So it was like, that's cool. Because whenever there's a reporter in Batman, it's always Vicky Vale, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. So they did a lot of Vicky Vale in 89 Batman because she's like the love interest. Yeah. So like having another Vicky, because Kim Basinger was perhaps the quintessential Vicky Vale. So they're probably not. They're like, we're not touching that. We're just going to do another reporter.
Yeah.
But she's like, look, all these women are dying. They're all being hung. It's weird.
Yeah.
And look, you care about women. We should talk. And she's like, fuck you. I don't talk to the press.
Yeah.
Oz, let's fucking go. And
I was like, absolutely, let's fucking go.
So he's her driver.
10 years ago, and that's just what he was doing.
They have a little chat about, like, Sophia seems to have some pity on Oz, right? Like, there's a scene where she's hanging out with her brother, and he calls him Oz Penguin, and she's like, shut the fuck up.
Come on, man.
And she seems to take a little bit of pity on him, and he seems to actually look kind of like her too, right? And you get this sense that like they're in it together. Like her family's kind of crazy, but they're in it together, and he'll drive her wherever she wants to go and shit. But it turns out that Oz told her dad.
Well, okay, so you're skipping ahead a little bit. So she goes home to dinner. Her fucking brother gets a text message and has to fuck off, and her dad is like, that fucking kid could not run a crime family if he's fucking incompetent.
You couldn't run that's it. You couldn't run. No simile, no comparison.
Nope, just can't run a crime family.
Just can't do it. He's a fucking idiot.
I'm going to break tradition and make you my heir, which is a big fucking deal because the Italian mafia doesn't do this.
Right.
And she's like, are you sure? Like, he's like, well, do you want it? And she's like, abso-fucking-lutely. I'm just saying, like, it's going to be kind of hard to make those old conservatives stick in the muds, accept a woman.
And he's like, I'll tell you what I'd do in that situation. Just kill all of them. And she's like, oh, I would never do that.
But a seed was planted. So now she starts thinking about this. She has a flashback within a flashback to when her
it is like flashbackception.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she figures, fuck it.
Fucking Leo DiCaprio is gonna show up. Yeah.
He's gonna fucking. So she goes down and talks to the reporter, and the reporter's like, okay, look. All these women were found hanging from their neck, but the
hung by the neck until dead.
But if you examine the corpses, they were like manually strangled, and they had a bunch of defensive wounds on their fingers and shit, where they were like trying to claw and scrape their way out of it.
Right.
And that doesn't make much sense. And Sophia has another flashback within a flashback, and it's when her father comes in and finds her and her hanging mother, and she notices that her father has, like, her mother has little defensive wounds on her fingers, and her father has scratch marks on his hands.
Yeah.
And she starts putting things together, and
she's still not ready to.
Right. She's not ready to deal with that. She's like, fuck you. I don't talk to press. Get away from me. And Oz is like,
yeah, I'm going to tell you exactly what I said the first time. And Oz, sorry, you had to come out here.
So she gets back in the car, and Oz is like, you really shouldn't have talked to press. She's like, shut the fuck up, dude. You're not in charge of me. Fucking take me to the party. So it's her dad's birthday party, and she has a little fun time joking with her cousin about their uncle and his third wife or whatever.
Yeah.
So dad calls her into the office, and he's like, "Heard you talk to a reporter." She's like, "Did Oz tell you that?" He's like, "I heard you talk to a motherfucking reporter."
Also, yes, like, Oz told me
that is the one fucking thing we don't do.
Yeah. He reveals to her that he's actually under a murder investigation. And he's like, you understand, like, this is bad for me. This is very bad for me personally.
This is bad for all of us.
Yeah, but most importantly,
mostly me.
And I can't stress this enough, I'm under investigation for murder. That's very bad for me.
Yeah. She's like, it's okay. I know you could never do anything like that. He's like, anything like what? And she's like, well, like, I know you didn't kill mom. Like, she was mentally unwell. She just, you know, took herself to the Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
And you must have some explanation for the scratch marks on your hands.
And he's like, you know what, Sophia?
He's like, are you trying to hustle me right now?
I think you're not mentally well.
Yeah.
I think you need to go somewhere to get the treatment you need.
Yeah. And she gets fucking 5150.
So she is driving home, and she gets pulled over by a bunch of cops, and they fucking 5150 her. They lock her up. They
take her to Arkham.
Haul her off to the mental hospital. And thus begins the most uncomfortable sequence on the show so far.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, she's tortured for 10 years.
There's a
electroshock therapy. There's a doctor called Dr. Ventress, not from Star Wars, who seems to be gleefully doing all of this.
I think he's being paid off.
Oh, sure. Dad. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But like, there's a sequence where like the woman in the next cell over Magpies is talking this really creepy voice.
Yeah. That's a character. That's a comic character as well.
There's a sequence like in the cafeteria where this one extremely tall woman has somehow gotten unchained and just beats the shit out of Sophia.
No one can figure out how it happened.
Yep.
And, yeah.
It can't be explained. And then the next day, Sophia comes back to the cafeteria and she's given a fork. And this tall woman is brought in, chained up this time. And they're like, well, you want to fucking stab her? And Sophia's like, I don't really want to stab her. And she's like, and the tall woman's like,
Yeah, I don't generally like stabbing people with forks.
Yeah. And Sophia drops the fork and the tall woman grabs it. She's like, I'm going to make this stop. And just pokes herself in the throat and takes herself to the Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Yep. Well, and that is immediately put on Sophia's, that's put in her lap.
Because she has been framed for all the murders that her father committed.
Yes. So now everyone thinks that everyone thinks that she's
no one really
now.
likes her.
Yeah. And so she's got a bit of a reluctant ally in Arkham, which is like Ventress's assistant, Dr. Rush, right?
Oh, there's one. Sorry to interrupt you, but there's a little sequence where we see Bliss for the first time, and Magpie.
Oh, the candy.
Yeah, Magpie gets her fucking pills and swallows them. She's like,
she goes somewhere else. Like,
yep, she is not here anymore.
Yeah, and I like how Sophia's like, "What the fuck is wrong? What happened just now?" And she even makes a comment. She's like, "If you're really good, they'll just start drugging you, and you'll be really happy." And she's like, "That sounds awful. That sounds really terrible."
Magpie's like, "It works for me."
Yeah, I'd rather not be here anyway. In my own mind. So she finds a reluctant, not even really an ally at the beginning, just
someone who's sympathetic,
and someone who doubts that maybe she isn't as dangerous as she's supposed to be, and maybe she didn't commit the crimes that she's accused of.
It's her fucking therapist.
Yes, and so like, what happens to that doctor? I think
he ends up leaving Arkham because he just can't deal with it anymore.
Is that really what happens?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
That's what they say.
But then Dr. Rush takes over, right?
Yes. So okay. No, Ventress leaves and another guy who's just as bad replaces him. But Dr. Rush is the sympathetic one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. He leaves because he realizes Arkham is incredibly fucked up.
Yes.
So the idea was that she would just be committed for 6 months
until her trial,
and then she'd be out there. But
they'd get a good lawyer, and she'd be able to be.
But the judge has been paid off by her dad, and says you're just going to stay there for 10 years. Yeah. Suck it
indefinitely.
Yep.
And then she kills.
She fucking snaps and kills Magpie in the cafeteria.
She's
like, I'm not crazy. She says, covered in the dead woman's blood.
And all of us were like, yeah, we get it. She was really annoying. Yeah. And so we get back to the present day. Mm-hmm. She wakes up in Dr. Rush's apartment. Mm-hmm. They have a very weird vibe together. I'm pretty sure that Dr. Rush wants some of that. And I don't think she does it all, but she's like, maybe I should let him think.
I can use this a little bit.
So she goes and crashes, because she's supposed to leave for Sicily the next day. And her family's having a big fancy dinner to celebrate.
And she fucking shows up, strolls on in, sits down at the table.
Gives a little toast.
Pours herself an extraordinarily full glass of wine.
Everyone, by the way, is so uncomfortable. Everyone's like looking into their plate and like, oh, God, Sophia's still here.
Johnny V is like, what the fuck are you doing here? She's like, I'm having dinner. Pass the fucking meatballs, Johnny.
It's the day of my daughter's wedding. And tomorrow I'm going to Sicily and shit. So I'm going to drink some wine and eat some, eat shit with my hands like I've been doing.
so the leader of the family taps his glass and starts giving this speech, and then she just fucking taps her glass over him. And
she's like, no. I give the toast.
I speak.
I give the toast.
My turn to speak.
And it's a whole thing about how shitty everyone is to her and how she hates all of them pretty much, right?
She's like, but I'm going to Sicily, so it's going to be fine.
Yeah, you guys have nothing. You guys should go to bed tonight in your cozy little beds.
Not a worry in the world.
Yeah, close your eyes, and I'm sure you will be here tomorrow morning.
And like halfway through this, like her cousin sends her little daughter off to bed.
Who I think we see in a previous episode during like the wake or something. Yeah.
She was there.
Kid loves chocolate cake, by the way.
So,
which Sophia knows.
The next scene we see is
wakes her up and
Sophia leading this child
this big fucking big fucking plate with this big fucking piece of chocolate cake. Which, by the way, that would work on me.
Yeah,
like if you showed up in my room in the middle of the night and you're like, "We're gonna go sleep out in the greenhouse," and I'm like, "I don't have a greenhouse." They're like, "I know. Here's some cake," and I'm like, "All right, let's fucking go."
Let's go. Yeah. So they go down to the greenhouse.
Fuck it, we'll build a greenhouse.
Sophia tells her the story about how she and her brother would sleep out in the greenhouse, and it was great. And then like it's the next morning.
Yeah, she's like, we're gonna spend the night out here. It's gonna be like a sleepover. And she's like, okay.
And the little kid wakes up and feels like, shh, just go back to sleep.
Don't
just chill.
Don't look at anything right now, please.
So she walks back towards the house, puts on a gas mask. Yep. To a musical accompaniment, by the way.
It's brilliant. What song do they play?
I forget.
It's a...
You figure that out. I'll keep going. So she goes down to the basement where she has like rigged up the gas line to go into the house's ventilation system.
Yeah.
Like just knocks that over.
Well, she kills them all. It's with... It's the part of their furnace that spits out carbon monoxide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So carbon monoxide poisoning on all of them. So she's just kind of strolling, kind of dancing through the house, seeing everyone is dead. Eventually, she goes up to Johnny Vidi's room, where she had very conveniently left a window propped open so that he would have fresh air and no one else would. She grabs a gun, wakes him up, and is like, "Hey, Johnny, we need to talk."
Yeah.
And that's how the episode ends.
Yeah. And so this makes sense. She wouldn't kill everyone.
Yeah.
Because she needs someone to keep the Enterprise together.
She needs Johnny Vidi in specific because he was the one who called the Triad guy to say that, he was her ally.
Yeah.
Ally. Except now he kind of is kind of her slave servant bitch. Yeah.
So that was episode 4, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the songs in this episode are there's a song called Strange Little Girl by the Stranglers. It's actually really funny.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one of these is Broken Belief, Two-Part Emotion, Song Love My Life, So Long My Life, So Long My Love, Jesus fuck. And
probably that one if I had to guess, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, good episode.
Yeah, I thought it was fucking great.
This show,
I was really happy for her.
Yeah, like this show sort of reminds me of Andor in a lot of ways, in that I did not ask for it. I never thought it was a good idea until it happened.
Yeah, because historically, most shows about Batman's rogues gallery or like other, doing
Batman without Batman sucks because it's about Batman.
Because most of the characters are kind of boring without him.
But this show is winning me over with really good performances, really good writing, and production value. Yeah. Like the sets look great, the props are great, everything just looks and feels good.
I think the thing that helps the most is that you could take out all the Batman shit, and this could work as a really capable, a really competent mob story.
Crime drama.
Yeah. And like when you start with a really good story as the foundation, and then you add in shit like, oh, it's the Penguin, and every the legacy nostalgia characters are secondary to like a really good story. That's why Andor is so good. Yeah. It's because this happens in the Star Wars universe.
But it didn't really have to.
Yeah, it's like on its own, like it's about a guy who is
discovering something bigger than himself to fight for.
Yeah, and spent his whole life being Aladdin, pretty much.
Yeah, just like this show is basically about just a low-ranking mafioso trying to better his position.
Yeah, move up in the world.
He's just trying to climb up the ladder.
All right, so we don't ordinarily do this on Saturday or Fridays, but our schedule this week got kind of messed up. So next week we'll be seeing you on Saturday at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. So come check that out. Next week will be our last Buzzed recap, Game of Thrones season 8. I was going to try to do it tonight, but then I realized there are diagrams that I need that I've not made.
Okay.
So we'll be doing that next Saturday, and then Sunday.
Sunday.
At 7, we'll do the next episode of Gangas and Dragons, which is the Traveler Pirates of Drynax RPG that we're doing, tabletop RPG that we're doing. So you should check that out as well. And then I think there might be Battlefront tomorrow at 7. It depends on how the day goes tomorrow. Yeah. But we thank you for the comments and for joining us. We appreciate it. And we'll see you later.
Bye-bye.